In this episode, we explore the idea that our apparent separation is just an illusion and that we are all part of a greater interconnected whole. Join us as we examine how we are all made of the very matter of the universe and how we are all part of a unified field of infinite potential. Discover how this profound truth can change the way that we see the world and each other as we uncover the truth about our place in the cosmos and how we are all part of the universe. Why, hello there.
Hello, Jem. How are you?
I'm very fantastic,
Good.
Expanding the vocabulary today. How are you?
Yeah, I'm very great. I'll just use your normal line.
Oh, good Lord, that is definitely staying in the recording. Oh, feeling amazing. Had a lovely night away. We had our Christmas party this week, so feeling very festive and very unminded. Had a blast.
Yeah, it was really good. It was only the second time me and Jem have met in real life, believe it or not, but we had such a good time. It was so much fun. We didn't stop laughing. So, yeah, we're going to carry on with the podcast. We liked each other.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely. We laughed so much. It's like we've known each other forever. And when we're at the lift, when we left, I did look at you and say, so do you still want to carry on with the podcast?
I did say no, but I didn't mean it.
Oh, so yeah, just absolutely brilliant. And I think lots of things to come in the future, and just wanted to share with you guys. I've just checked the stats and we're listened to now in 105 countries, over 1,300 cities. We've really got no idea how many listens we actually get because it's hard to sort of add up all the stats. But I think we're at least about 1,500 a week now, maybe more. And it's really incredible. And just thank you all for sharing. Thank you all for being here. Yeah, it's just been a wonderful journey so far.
It's over 2,000 listeners a week. I think we've gone up to 2.1k listeners per episode. So I think that averages out to about a weekly average, which is really good. I mean, I'm really proud of us. And thank you to everyone that listens and that shares it and has shared it with their friends and their family and knows the impact that the podcast is making. So thank you all. And to our Twitter friends as well that join us on the spaces where we record it. So yeah, all going very well.
Yeah, it's really been incredible. And thank you to The Empire for sponsoring this episode. We've just, met so many amazing people, and the ripple effect or the feedback that we get is quite incredible. Definitely in the mental health revolution. Oh, I can see Mitch and Artorius and Agato. Hi, guys. Thank you for joining us.
Hi, everyone.
So this episode is called The YOUniverse, YOU. And we don't really have, well, the subject is everything is you, but we don't really have a plan tonight. We've got some questions, but if you guys want to interact, then you're more than welcome as always.
Yeah, I'll speak for a while as always, and then we'll get it interactive because the subject is vast and you'll hear from what I'm going to say at the beginning, how who we are touches everything and how who we are is everything. So I'm really looking forward to sharing the deeper aspects of what we teach, because the 3 principles isn't only about mental health, it's just about understanding who we are, and we could also have a deeper experience of being human, and that deeper experience is always incredibly helpful.
It really is. And going from, we don't realise we do it, but going from living in autopilot mode to questioning things, it's kind of entering a new life almost. It's really quite incredible. So yeah, looking forward to everything that we're going to cover tonight.
Okay, I will get going, and thank you all for being here. The universe, I guess we'd start with the exploration of who we are. Who are we? Who do we think we are? Who do you think you are? When we start to explore that, it's kind of a different layers of thinking that we've believed or have created about ourselves. They've become fixed in some ways. We've fixed who we think we are, and we've stopped seeing ourselves as these fluid, creative beings that is the truth of who we are. Like, we are the infinite potential. We are the creative force. You know, there's something about who we are that gets so stuck and can become so fixed that we can lose the joy of life. We lose the joy of seeing beyond our limited experiences and our limited beliefs. Our beliefs are very often limiting who we are because they're saying that, oh, you know, I'm a mom, I'm a dad, I'm a lover, I'm married, I do this job. And we get so fixed in the identity and we forget that there's a place where the identity comes from. And it's where the identity comes from that really has everything that we're looking for. And we go outside of ourselves into the world to find it and forget that we are already it. So we can really look at this in the context of the oneness of who we are. The universe is so many things in the world of form, but when we strip it back, there's one energy that's created all of it. And that's what we're looking at tonight. It's not who you think you are. It's not your personality. It's not your character. It's what's before that. What created that? What is it that witnesses your experience of who you think you are? You know, it's coming home to something deeper because the world is one of duality. The world is one of wrong or right, black and white, good and bad, negative and positive. There's all these opposites and all these conflicts that we see out there in the world or even within our own personalities. And in the non-dual aspect, it's in the oneness that we touch the truth of who we really are. And that has a simplicity to it. It's beyond the complexity that's out there. There's a home, there's a touching a space where all of that falls away, all of that confusion falls away, all of the problems that look real fall away. And we come home and see this shining truth of experience. And that experience is always coming from us. It's not something that's coming at us. We are the energy that creates the experience out there. But we often get victimized and think that the world's coming at us and it's creating these experiences. And we try to resist them. And we kind of come out of flow then. The flow of seeing who you are allows us to begin to really have a richer experience by saying, okay, this is what's coming through. This is the experience that I'm meant to be having. What does this contain? What am I seeing? How am I viewing it? Am I seeing it in the world of duality? Am I seeing it as right or wrong and good and bad? Or can I just see it as it is, as this experience of me, of this being, this construct in the universe, having something that is really a gift to have, you know, being human and having our experiences, even when they're the ones that we can feel that we don't want to have. We're here, we're alive, we're having this amazing experience of being human. We're part of this universe, we're all connected. It's one unified field of infinite potential, but we limit that potential with our own thinking and our own beliefs. But if we can be fully conscious of the experience that we're having, if we can allow that experience, if we fall out of this resistance that we get into, this struggle that we get into, and we see that we're part of this whole, it allows us to have this broader vision. Because when things happen that we don't like, we really shut down and limit. And what we really should do is expand, because if we see through the eyes of expansion, we see that everything is as it's meant to be. There's a perfection to life, that we're going to be on the roller coaster of life, which contains all things, all feelings, all experiences. And what we can then get to do is just accept life as it is. And it's in that acceptance of life as it is that we get to follow and flow into a path that really takes us to places that we wouldn't imagine that we would be, into situations that really work out in our best interest, because it's in our resistance that we lock ourselves in. It's in our openness and our receptiveness that we can actually go through life. And I think I tweeted something yesterday, and it was, you know, your name is already written in your life. You know, you just have to relax and allow it to happen. That doesn't mean to say that we don't take action and have a life where we do things. Of course we do. But when we come up against these things that we don't want to happen, instead of getting into a fight with them, it's in the acceptance that we find the answers that we're looking for. It's like life is meaningful or meaningless. We decide that. We can either feel deeply connected or disconnected. That's us. How are we viewing it? We're going to feel disconnected when we resist life because we go into the separation. We're going to feel connected when we accept life because we're allowing it to come through us. We're allowing the experience to be exactly as it is. So when we see that, we're more open, we're more connected, we're more loving. Are we living for or against our true nature? And our true nature, our beingness, is just one of love, one of seeing through the illusion of needing to manipulate life to get what we want. And the three principles point us back to this. The three principles always point back to truth. They always point back to who we are before thought. That who are we really? So the principles point to mind, consciousness, and thought. So we are the energy of thought. This thought comes and creates our experience. We're not controlling thought. We're not manipulating thought. Thought comes and goes. We're like radio stations receiving the radio wave of thought. It points to consciousness. What's that? That's the awareness. That's the witness. That's the everything of who we are. It points to universal mind. That's that creative energy. There was nothing and now there's everything. The Big Bang, that explosion of nothingness into matter, into form, all those billions of years ago was, we were part of that. That nothingness into somethingness is who we are. So we start to see the connection of all that is. We start to fall out of this separate existence of which really contains a lot of fight into this beingness of oneness, which contains a relaxation into life. It contains all the things that you're looking for outside of you already within you, because you are the universe. We're not who we think we are. We're something much greater. And when we point to consciousness, this awareness, this state of being, it's the internal environment, it's the external environment, it's the ability to experience and perceive the world around us. We get to think, we get to feel, we get to have experiences. With this consciousness taking form, and we get so caught up in the detail and the control that we forget about the miracle of just being us. We forget about the miracle of just being here now and listening, or going for a walk, or looking at a flower, or watching a sunset, or holding someone's hand, or whatever that experience it is, it contains the miracle of life. And this unseen nature, this consciousness, this phenomenon that we are, it's been studied throughout time. We never quite grasp it because it's unseen. The mind is finite. It cannot understand the infinite. The greatest philosophers and scientists and psychologists have looked towards it, but there's not one definitive answer. Yes, it creates our awareness, but everything that comes from nothing into something, it's what's that point of creation? Like these questions that we can ask that blow our mind are so important because they take us out of the small, egoic, caught up nature of mind, as it can have repetitive, habitual, unhelpful thinking. And these huge questions can suddenly take us away from that into something greater where we won't have the answer, but the exploration creates something that allows us to see the depth of our human experience. Because consciousness is more than the capacity of awareness. It's actually the present moment. It contains everything. It allows us the ability to recognize and understand our thoughts and our emotions and our sensations. And that of other people too. It all comes from this place of oneness, of absolute amazing, mind-blowing, luminous force of infinite intelligence. And then we get into our separate nature where we think we know everything. And we get so caught up in the structure and form of our own thinking and our own beliefs, and we forget. And it's so easy to forget. I forget too. But consciousness isn't fixed. It isn't. Life is a flow state. Life is one experience to another. We are conscious physical beings, but we're swimming in a vast energetic ocean, and we forget that. We forget that we're the energy of life. And I think to begin to explore and to begin to see and understand a little bit these deeper questions really takes us away from being so self-obsessed, so self-aware, so caught up in the things that probably don't matter as much as we think they do. And again, it's wonderful, this understanding, these principles, but they go from the profound to the practical. We don't teach this because it's a wonderful thing to explore, which it is. We teach it because it's incredibly practical to understand who we are, the building blocks and the form of life, the energy behind life. When we touch that, it really brings a simplicity to life. It really brings a deeper awareness to what it means to be human, a greater reverence to who we are. Because suddenly, when we wake up to who we are, we begin to see who we are not. And as those structures and beliefs of who we think we are dissolve, and we see more of this universe of who we are, this truth of who we are, there's a much more aliveness to that. There's much more creativity to that. There's much less on it in many ways, because we don't have to secure our well-being in the world of form anymore. We see that it's who we already are. We see, again, this energetic being that we are is having this human, very temporary experience. So why do we have to take it so seriously? What's the nature of who we are? What is consciousness? When we look up and we see the infinite, it does blow our minds, but we forget when we look in, there's infinity too. But then this experience that we have, this duality of reality, or our so-called perceived reality, can be so compelling that we get completely lost in it and we forget this exploration. And that's what we always want to bring you back to with this conversation is, let's explore together. I don't have all the answers. It's for all of us to come together and look within and see what's true. Because who you think you are isn't true, because it's temporary. It's been created and it will be destroyed. The things that you think you need aren't true. That can be created and destroyed. There's aspects of you that all have been created and destroyed by you seeing through them. I say, I'm not that. I just thought I was that. And because thought and consciousness isn't fixed, that's always available. We're always open and up to seeing something differently. And it's in challenging ourselves and seeing that these beliefs fall away. It's looking at the belief and saying, well, I know that's made of thought. I know I've made that up. Oh, that isn't helpful to me. I don't need to believe that anymore. I don't need to live by that idea of who I am anymore. And the universe, it just points to something deeper. Like science thinks it's got it, but it hasn't really. It doesn't know what dark matter is. There's this matter that's, 85, 90% of the universe? And they don't know what that is. The world of form is so finite and limited. When they look, and I'm not a scientist, so if I get anything wrong, please correct me and DM me, but it's at these levels of particles and electrons and photons, I believe that as they're observed, particles behave differently. So that to me is consciousness. It's us, when we observe something, change it. And at one level, I can see how true that is, because my world changes depending on how I look at it. So science is seeing the same thing. these particles jump in and out of reality completely randomly. And an experiment is changed by observation. And this is the substance of what we're talking about. So what makes us us? The matter, the form, is just a temporary finite experience. What makes us us is the infinite energetic potential behind that. You know, if you think about it, science cannot see or say anything about these spiritual truths because it doesn't take consciousness into its understanding because it can't work it out. And neither can we, to be fair. We just play and explore. But if you think about consciousness, well, science came from it. There has to be thought and consciousness and awareness and a mind for science to exist. So it's very difficult for what is created to observe what created it and understand it. It's like a fire trying to burn itself or a knife trying to cut itself. It can't ever really understand it. But what we do know is that formless turned into form, that out of nothingness came everythingness. I think I made a word up there. And we are the very matter that came from that nothingness. And that is just, when I sit and I contemplate that, my mind doesn't understand that, but there's something within me that feels it, that it touches a space that allows me to go beyond my egoic identity and feel peace. Because peace doesn't come from the ego. Peace comes from before the ego, from our true nature. It's inbuilt. The infinite potential that we are is peaceful. What comes out of that, yes, of course we can feel anxiety and not feel peace and disharmony and upset and have this very contracted human experience, but that doesn't touch the true nature of who we are. Because nothing in this world is set. There are no things in this world. There are events and experiences that we have, that we create. We were designed perfectly, as far as I can tell. It's the human experience is one that is meant to have the ups and downs. We're complete. We have everything we need within us. We're whole. There's nothing we need from the world or from anyone in the world to be complete. It's like we're a puzzle that's already solved from that level. But with the ego that comes in, it looks like there is. But to me, that's part of the human experience that we're meant to have. I don't see that that's wrong anymore. I see that, of course I'm going to do that. Of course I'm going to get caught up and think that there's something I need. But I'm going to wake up to the fact at some point that I don't need it. And that's the game we play as a human. Now you see it, now you don't. Oh, I see that I'm the infinite creative potential and that anything is completely possible and I'm always okay. And then I don't. Then I get caught up. But I know that everything that I'm looking for and every answer that I ever need is within me. Can only be within me. And can't be out there. Try and resist this energy flowing through us, but we have no power to stop it. It's who we are. It's the nature of life itself. And as I said earlier, it's in that acceptance of the you, all of the you, the messy human you and the divine nature of you, that we then have a life that is lived rather than a life that is feared. We can really make our lives small by thinking that we're not supposed to be having the experiences that we're having. But we really expand in life when we see that it is all exactly as it's meant to be. And it's not that it's only thought, it's that it's all thought. Every experience that you've ever had has come from thought. And you can't think your way out of thought. You have to go deeper. It's just, we touch a space just before all of that is where something opens, where we get a glimpse of who we really are. And it can be seconds, But that would change your whole experience of being alive. Suddenly there's presence, suddenly there's an understanding, suddenly it's seeing through the illusion. We see that beliefs aren't real, that we've made them real. And what's also wonderful is we stop trying to be special because we already are. Every one of us. We don't have to have things or be things or have a label attached to us to make us more, because it's not possible for us to be more. It's possible for the ego to be more. Of course, the ego is going to tell you that, but it's not possible for who we really are to be any more. As I said before, we're already whole. And we're all connected. There's no separateness. When you come back to seeing that you're part of the universe and all is one, there's nothing to prove anymore. You know, it's like the tree is perfect, the lake is perfect, the storms are perfect, the flowers are perfect, you're perfect. You're part of all of it. I'm part of all of it. It's already inbuilt. It's in the design. So it's such a beautiful understanding, and it's almost like the subject of the universe is so huge, it's even hard to articulate, you know, because usually we have a subject where we're looking at fear or doubt or, you know, relationships. This is so broad and so huge. It's trying to kind of narrow it down into an hour's podcast. It's like you can't, but you can play with it and we can glimpse it and we can reflect on the fact that we're more than we think we are. We're all amazingly divine, special, infinite beings, and at the same time, all completely ordinary and wonderful. So we get to really live from that space, because if you think about living from understanding that, how much thinking and how many unnecessary beliefs would drop away, because you just come back to the simplicity of being you and being here and being alive. And we don't need to add anything to that. Gem.
Well, the good news is I have many questions
that I will not be able to answer.
Well, I did Google that earlier. I said, what do you ask a woman that knows everything? And it said, you know, women know everything, but no. Yeah, some questions really popped up. And the first thing, being able to see who we are not, that is really, really huge. I don't know about other people, but I was always trying to figure out who I am or who I want to be. But actually having a look at who you've created and then stripping it away has been the biggest thing in the world. Everything is so temporary, but why do we hold on to the traumatic experiences? Why do we add so much unnecessary stuff? Yeah, that's my first question, really.
Okay.
Why is it we define ourselves based on trauma rather than love? Or maybe I'm speaking from personal, and not everybody does that, but for me, that's what I've done.
I don't think everybody does it, but a lot of people do. You're definitely not alone. And why do we do it? I think, again, it's that contraction. See, the ego always wants to be either victim or victor. So if we identify with the trauma, the ego gets to be the victim. And I think that we can get really stuck in that. And I think we've lived in a world that's told us that, you know, our past defines us, when actually it's not relevant. It's who we are right now is not created, our trauma, if we experience it right now, is not created by the past. It's created by us thinking about a past trauma. So the trauma happened. We carry it on by believing that it has an effect on us in the moment, by believing that we're damaged. And we've lived, again, unfortunately, we've lived in a world that has kind of created an identity where it's like, well, you're a victim of your past. Well, we're coming to a place where I think people are waking up to the fact that they're not. You're not a victim of anything. What you can experience is thought in the moment that looks like the past, but that's just thought in the moment. And it loses its potency when we begin to see that, because when we see it as just thought and not trauma and not past, and we don't identify it with it, that thought just comes and goes like any thought. So that's what we're talking about here. It's a shift in understanding who we are. We can be box fresh in the moment if that's what we believe and that's what we see, and we see that consciousness is creating our experience moment to moment to moment. Or we can believe that we're the sum total of all our traumatic experiences, and when we think about them, we're re-traumatized, and that is what we will experience, because that's how powerful thought is. It will create what we believe.
So if someone's constantly repeating those worries, those thoughts, and sort of projecting those experiences, I don't know if this is right, but is your brain, your subconscious, going to try and protect you by giving you these warning signals, making things seem more extreme or seem more scary? Whereas if you weren't seeing life through those blinkers, through the past, you're not going to see things like that, because we all have jobs or experiences or relationships where we can feel amazing about it one moment and then not so great another moment, and that thing hasn't changed, it's us. So what is it that is making us change our opinion? Is it just our thoughts that we believe?
Absolutely, new thought.
Yeah.
I believed I was a victim of my past until I found the principles, and now my past can't touch me because I don't believe that anymore. So it's always, always thought creating the experience that you're having. It's just whether you get to see that or not. So for many people, it won't look like thought. It will look like the past. It will really look like the past is being experienced again and again and again. Or the imagined future is like they're predicting the future and that terrible thing will happen. But when you begin to unpack it and come back to who we really are and we see thought, then it doesn't have any power. You can have a moment of identifying with it, but as soon as you're, oh, that's not true, that's thought, you're out of it. You're back in the moment. And that's where everything that you're looking for is. It's in the moment. And if you're not experiencing trauma in the moment, it's really only coming from one place, which is your thought system. So what's a memory? A memory is a thought that's happening that you're having that looks like the past, but it's not. It's now. It's happening now. So there's so much freedom to be seen in this understanding.
And it's, when you actually clock on and realize the patterns of behavior or the patterns of thoughts and question them, so much space comes between those thoughts. And, there's no remedy, there's no fix, there's no way, but distancing yourself and sort of observing them, those thoughts become less and less because they're not focused on. It's kind of quite scientific. So I think you are a scientist.
I don't know about that. But also it's like, what are we running away from? Like, if it's thought and, we can spend a lot of time in resistance to that thinking. It's like, oh, it's not only that we're having the thinking, we can fight it thinking that we don't want to have it. And it's like, but what's there? What are we resisting? What aren't we allowing ourselves the experience of? Because once we go through that, once we see that, there's a new us on the other side, because we've stripped away another layer of thinking that isn't true. So it's always beginning to see that contraction that we get, and rather than resisting or running away from it or, having addiction or coping with it in some way that we're habitually drawn to, if we can just go, oh, I can sit with that because that isn't true. There's a lot of freedom on the other side of that.
Yeah, when you think about it logically, it couldn't have made any more sense. But when you're in it and when you've known no other way, it's completely the opposite. But if you think about this theory within life, if you're in a job or you had to do a university course, and as soon as you got to something that made you feel uncomfortable, you just turned away and said, oh no, that's not for me. That doesn't make any sense. And with all growth, there's going to be pain. So it's just, I don't know. It's quite incredible that is the natural human trigger feature. But being able to see it, it dissolves, doesn't it? So
yeah, I mean, it's just a new perspective. It's just, as you said earlier, it's like living in a new world when you understand this, because we go from running away from the pain, the trauma, the experiences, life as it is, and we kind of go headfirst into it because we now see that there's nothing to be scared of. And again, back to freedom, back to who we really are.
And once you see that, you can't unsee it. Sometimes your ego will try and keep you trapped for a little while, and then you come out of it and you're like, oh yeah, okay, I kind of did that to myself.
Yeah.
But it's really quite amazing. I've just brought Mitch up. Mitch has requested, so nice to have you, Mitch. Also, if anyone else wants to come up, you're more than welcome. And if you didn't want to ask any questions, just DM me.
Hello, my lovely friends. How are you?
Hi, Mitchy. Thank you for coming up.
Hi, darling.
Hello. I really enjoy listening. You both make a lot of wonderful points. And, when you're talking about the layers, the one thing I wanted to comment on was that I think throughout our childhood, throughout our lives, especially during our childhood, we experience multiple different traumas that happen to us in life. And a trauma doesn't necessarily have to be a negative thing. And with each one of those traumas that we experience in life, we almost create like a box or a subconscious personality that defends us from that trauma. And those build up over time, and we kind of keep them in boxes because we feel safer to not analyze them, to not analyze why we feel that way about certain things that helped us or that happened to us in life. And I need to change the way I just said that, because things don't happen to us in life. Nothing in life happens to us. Everything happens for us. And all the trauma and pain and positive things and all these wonderful things that we can experience in life, when you start looking at everything that happens as a lesson instead of a result of an action, you get a totally different ownership of it. And you get a totally different feel that, this thing that happened was negative, but if I find the positive in it, that's what I'm supposed to do. I'm not supposed to dwell on the bad thing that happened, but I'm supposed to dwell on the positive that came from it. And I think once we master that mindset, and as you said, Miles and Jem both, it's all a matter of your mindset. Your mindset is everything. And if you go at life with that mindset that no matter what happens, it happens for me and it's temporary. Everything in life is temporary. So I really wanted to touch on that. And I'm enjoying very much so listening to this. And I've caught a couple of them along the way, but I'm glad I was able to stick this one out. This was or have the time, I should say. So thank you so much for allowing me to give my 2 cents and, lift you guys up. Both of you are just incredible assets to the community and just to people in general. And I applaud your selflessness.
Oh, thank you, Mitch. It's wonderful to have you on, and for you to actually come up and speak. So I really appreciate that. And I love what you said. It's true. It's what do we take from the experience? Do we take the pearl of wisdom, or do we become a victim of an experience? And I think the deeper we understand who we are, the more we're going to take the wisdom from it. We're going to see what was contained in it for us to see. Whereas the more we go into the identity, the separation of who we are, then the more we're going to go into victim, because that's going in the direction of ego.
And I think, unfortunately, wisdom is something that doesn't really strike us as wisdom until we get older. We can reflect with more maturity on the things that have happened in our lives. And I think that's a big thing, because when you're younger, you don't have the mental capacity tapped into yet to be able to absorb what happened and analyze it. No, it's all confrontational with yourself. Like, oh my gosh, like you said, the ego, I can't believe that happened to me. Well, if you really look at it, it happened for you. So,
yeah. Well, I often look at life as a game of two halves. It's that first half of protecting the identity and the ego and being reactive. And the second half is where we start to see through it and try and destroy it, and not reactive, using it as the energy to go deeper, using these experiences as the tools almost to see who we really are. So it's so interesting. And often that change from the defender to the seeker is because we have a traumatic experience. Interestingly, it's like something cracks us open and we begin the exploration into who we really are. And that can happen at different ages for different people. But there's a point where we see, wow, it's like I'm spending so much time in defense of something that doesn't actually exist. And then we go, oh, okay, that's interesting. So what can I see here? What can I explore here? Who am I? Who am I really? What is this experience? What is this being human? And that's a lot of fun for me. I mean, for some people, they probably don't want to do this, but for a lot of us, it's such an enriching exploration.
Would you ladies mind if I mentioned the fundraiser that I'm doing this year?
Absolutely not.
Okay, cool. So about 3 years ago, it touched my heart to do a fundraiser, and it was around Christmas time to raise money to help people that were, affected by COVID, because there were so many, and financially. And, the ultimate goal was just to raise enough money to cover somebody's electric bill or help them out in a bind that they may have found themselves in because of the whole thing. And it was a pretty explosive, and amazingly enough, the community, found enough faith in my stewardship of the funds to allow us to raise about 10 grand. And, we ended up finding a recipient, and turned out to be a veteran. And we were able to present the veteran the funds on Christmas, and they actually lived off of that money for about 5 or 6 months, which was pretty powerful. And since then, we were able to provide a handicap accessible bathroom in their house for them and stuff. But just to kind of give you an idea, and this is the third annual, and what my friends have lovingly deemed Mitchmas, that we're doing. And we have a pretty strong and viable recipient. If you guys want to look into it or possibly help, sometimes just giving up that latte you might drink once or twice a day for a couple of days it can be a pretty significant impact on somebody else's life that might not be that significantly, able to do that. So check out my profile, and you'll see the fundraiser that we're doing this year for Mitchmas. It's very humbling to feel the love and support of people that really have never even met me face to face within this space, but have the faith in me to be able to do the right things with what they choose to, offer. And so that's a pretty big responsibility that I cherish. And, I can't express enough how much gratitude I have to all of you for that. So if you're so inclined, it would be amazing to have you check out the fundraiser that we're doing. And by all means, if you can help, it doesn't matter, $5, $10, $1, it all adds up, and there's strength in numbers and exposure. So I appreciate that, ladies. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mitch, and thank you for all the good that you do in the world. I've seen that you've been doing this over the years, and I'm glad that people trust you, because you're a wonderful force in this space. So thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank
Love
you,
girls.
Mitch. You always bring such light and such love, and I think we must have all known each other since the end of 2017, beginning of 2018. So it's a bloody long time, and what you do is absolutely fantastic. And thank you for all of the comments that you brought up. And the thing that just kept going through my mind was, what you resist persists, what you resist persists. And until you hear it, we hear that all the time, but until we really hear it, it means nothing. That's been a huge, huge takeaway. So thank you for that, Mitch. And we did have I'm just going to ask anyone else if they want to come up for the final sort of few minutes. But if not, we had a very beautiful question from a lady who contacted us on Instagram. You should all follow us on Instagram, because I put in lots of work, and not many people follow us, so that would be amazing.
I just want to say, please, she's amazing. She does the most amazing quotes and reels, and I'm blown away by Gem's Instagram skills, considering she's never used it before. The Unminding Project, please find us.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much. Well, so she contacted us, and She is from India. Her name is Nandini. So she said, it comes in 3, so I'll read them all together and maybe we'll go back to them. But are there unique purposes for people on this planet? There are so many of us, and there are many unique things for us to do. Why are each one of us inclined to something specific, different passions, when all of us are made of the same souls and come from the same infinite space?
Okay, that is beautiful. I think purpose, I don't know. It would look like that. But again, we're looking at that question from our finite minds and what we perceive as purpose. What does the infinite creative potential or consciousness want to experience? It would look to me like it's so hard, even for my mind, to comprehend that consciousness is creating 8 billion separate realities that all having different experiences that consciousness wants to experience. So it's not going to want to experience the same thing over and over again. It's going to create a myriad of different colours and people and experiences and places and emotions. And there's so much to the human experience. But for me, as close as I would get to it, it would be that consciousness wants to experience itself. So for me, the Big Bang in spiritual terms would have been that there was just light, but it didn't know how to experience itself. So form was created for it to have that experience. And from that, it's grown into these 8 billion people. Now, if every one of us is consciousness taking form, then every one of us does have a unique expression. So I'd use the word expression rather than purpose. Purpose can, to me, have a little bit of heaviness with it, but the expression of who we are is, of course, going to be unique. There's no snowflake is the same, no person is the same, no fingerprint is the same, no experience is the same. So it's hard because our minds working with maths and numbers and constructs and barriers and borders. But to see 8 billion different experiences is kind of mind-blowing. But again, we go to that place where it's great for our minds to be blown. It's great to see beyond it. And it's going to have whatever meaning looks right for you to give it, because consciousness coming through us is going to give us the appropriate experience and meaning for it to look how it looks to us. So again, how it looks to me doesn't mean to say how it looks to you, but we don't have to get caught up in that because we're all seeing it perfectly for ourselves. So we're all having this absolutely divine, perfect expression of consciousness through our eyes. So, yeah, I can't explain it any better than that because it's such a huge question. And I'm not even sure that we're meant to have a definitive answer.
I think it was a great answer. And she's messaged me last week because we ran out of time last week. So I will get back to her because she's asked for the answer. And I did say that, would she come up? But she said she fell asleep. But she's a wonderful lady. And it's just, we've had quite a few messages recently on the website, people contacting us that we don't know through Twitter. We've never met. They've been recommended the podcast or they've seen it online. And that's just the most amazing thing. So any feedback or anything you guys want us to talk about, we would love to hear. So thank you for that question. It's a very, very beautiful one. And I think we're coming to time now.
Yeah, I just want to say Nagato tweeted something earlier when we were talking about trauma. And he said, I think trauma can teach us a lot of things about ourselves that we try not to see because we don't want to face them. But pain is the greatest teacher. If we go to the deep, deep root cause of a thought or feeling, we can learn a lot about ourselves. So, yeah, I agree. I think the root cause is thought. So it's going back into why are we seeing it in that way? And as that unravels, I totally agree. We can learn so much. We don't learn a lot about ourselves from the good times. We definitely learn a lot about ourselves when we go through contractions, when we go through tough times. And as we said before, that's exactly how life is supposed to be. And that takes me on to a wonderful quote by Eckhart, who I know I say a lot of his quotes, but I really do adore his teachings. And it's always say yes to the present moment. What could be more futile, more insane than to create inner resistance to what already is? What could be more insane than to oppose life itself, which is now and always now? Surrender to what is, say yes to life, and see how life suddenly starts working for you rather than against you.
Yeah, that is a perfect round off / explanation for what we've covered. And if Eckhart or Nagato would like to join the show and be co-hosts, then they are more than welcome. Both very deep, both very amazing. So yeah, wow, the hour has just flown past and it's been a very wonderful conversation. So thank you, all of you, for being here. If you're listening on Fountain, then please give us a boost. If you could follow us and rate us on Apple or Spotify or wherever you listen to podcasts, we're growing our YouTube channel as well. So if you could follow us there, that would be amazing. But yeah, just thank you for joining us today and being part of the Unminding Revolution. We're sponsored by The Empire, and you can check them out at the-empire.io. And yeah, thank you for being here.
Yeah, thank you, everybody. Thank you to everybody that supported us throughout the year. You know, what an amazing year it's been for Unminding. Thank you to Gems for being an amazing co-host, and to all our regulars. Like, we love you. We couldn't do this without you. You've been such an amazing support. And yeah, we're looking forward to what 2023 may bring for Unminding. Who knows? But we love you a lot, and we will see you all next week.